What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors gets disrespected on live television by a host who thinks she can say whatever she wants? In just 33 seconds, Jennifer Hudson would say something so shocking, so completely out of line, that Samuel L. Jackson would do something he's never done before: walk off a talk show. And trust me, you need to hear exactly what was said. Samuel L. Jackson arrived at the studio that afternoon, expecting a normal interview. He'd been on hundreds of talk shows before. This was supposed to be easy, relaxed, fun, even. He was there to promote his latest film, and everyone knew Samuel was always good for great stories and laughs. The audience was excited. You could feel the energy in the room. This was Samuel L. Jackson, after all, a living legend, someone who'd earned every bit of respect in this industry. Jennifer Hudson walked out to massive applause, smiling and waving. She sat down across from Samuel, and for the first few minutes, everything seemed fine. They talked about his new movie. They talked about his career. Samuel was charming, funny, telling stories the way only he can. The audience was eating it up. But you could sense something was different about Jennifer that day. There was an edge to her voice, a sharpness, like she was looking for something. Then she started asking about his age. Now, Samuel is in his 70s, and he looks incredible. He's still doing action movies, still working constantly, still one of the biggest stars in the world. But Jennifer wouldn't let it go. She kept bringing it up, kept making little comments. At first, Samuel laughed them off. He's a professional. He's dealt with worse. But she kept pushing. "So, Samuel," Jennifer said, leaning forward with this strange smile on her face, "do you ever think about slowing down? I mean, you're not getting any younger." The audience got quiet. That's not really something you ask someone like that. But Samuel handled it with grace. He smiled and said, "Well, Jennifer, I'm doing just fine. Still got plenty of energy. Still love what I do." But Jennifer didn't stop there. She actually laughed. Not a friendly laugh, a dismissive one. "I'm just saying," she continued, "there's got to be a point where you think, maybe it's time to let the younger generation take over, you know?" You could see Samuel's expression change, just slightly. The smile stayed on his face, but his eyes got serious. "The younger generation is doing great," he said calmly. "There's room for everybody." Jennifer nodded, but she had this look like she wasn't done, like she was building up to something. And that's when things really started to go wrong. She started talking about his recent movies, but not in a complimentary way. She started listing them off, and after each one, she'd make a face, a little grimace, like she was tasting something bad. The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This wasn't normal talk show behavior. This wasn't how you treat a guest, especially not someone like Samuel L. Jackson. "I mean, I watched your last 3 films," Jennifer said, and the way she said it made it clear she didn't enjoy them. "And I've got to be honest with you, Samuel, I just didn't get it. Like, what are you still trying to prove?" Samuel sat back in his chair. He wasn't smiling anymore. "I'm not trying to prove anything," he said, his voice level but firm. "I'm doing my job. I'm making movies. That's what I do." Right, Jennifer said, waving her hand like she was brushing him off. "But at what point do you look in the mirror and think, maybe I've done enough? Maybe it's time to step aside and enjoy retirement?" The audience was dead silent now. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was uncomfortable. This was disrespectful, and everyone could feel it. Samuel took a deep breath. You could see him trying to stay calm, trying to be professional. "Jennifer, I'm not sure what you're getting at here, but I love acting. I love my work, and as long as people want to see me in movies, I'm going to keep making them." Jennifer laughed again, that same dismissive laugh. "People want to see you? Samuel, let's be real. Your last movie barely made any money. The one before that got terrible reviews. At some point, you have to accept that maybe your time has passed." That was it. That was the moment. You could see it in Samuel's face. He'd been patient. He'd been gracious. He'd tried to keep things civil. But there's only so much disrespect a person can take. "Excuse me?" Samuel said, and his voice had changed completely. It wasn't friendly anymore. It wasn't warm. It was cold, sharp. "My time has passed?" Jennifer seemed to realize she'd gone too far, but instead of backing down, she doubled down. "I'm just being honest," she said, shrugging. "Isn't that what we're supposed to do here? Have honest conversations?" "Honest?" Samuel repeated. "You think you're being honest? You're being rude. There's a difference." The audience started murmuring. Some people were nodding. They agreed with Samuel. This had gone too far. Jennifer's face changed. She looked annoyed, like Samuel was the one being difficult, like he was the problem. "Oh, come on," she said, rolling her eyes. "You're too sensitive. I'm just asking questions." "No," Samuel said, standing up. "You're not asking questions. You're being disrespectful, and I don't have to sit here and take this." Jennifer looked shocked, like she couldn't believe he was standing up, like she couldn't believe he was talking back to her. "Sit down, Samuel," she said, and her voice had this commanding tone to it, like she was in charge, like he had to listen to her. But Samuel didn't sit down. He started taking off his microphone. "What are you doing?" Jennifer asked, and now she sounded angry. "We're in the middle of an interview." "Not anymore," Samuel said calmly. He placed the microphone on the chair and looked directly at her. "I've been in this industry for decades. I've earned my place. I've earned respect. And I'm not going to sit here and let you talk to me like I'm nothing." The audience started clapping, quietly at first, then louder. They were on his side. They saw what was happening. They saw how Jennifer had treated him. Jennifer's face turned red. She looked furious. "You can't just walk off my show," she said, standing up now too. "That's completely unprofessional." Samuel actually laughed at that, a real laugh. "I'm unprofessional?" he said. "Jennifer, you just spent the last 10 minutes insulting me on live television. You told me my time has passed. You told me I should retire. You disrespected my work, my career, everything I've built. And you think I'm the unprofessional one?" Jennifer opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. She knew he was right. Everyone knew he was right. "Let me tell you something," Samuel continued, and his voice was powerful now, strong. "I've worked with the best directors in the world. I've been in some of the biggest movies ever made. I've won awards. I've earned the respect of my peers. And I don't need validation from someone who thinks they can tear people down on their own show just to make themselves feel important." The audience erupted in applause. People were standing up, cheering. They loved it. They loved seeing someone stand up to a bully, because that's what Jennifer had become in that moment, a bully. Jennifer looked around at the audience, clearly upset that they were supporting Samuel instead of her. "This is my show," she said loudly, trying to talk over the applause. "My show, and I can ask whatever questions I want." "You absolutely can," Samuel agreed. "And I can choose not to answer them. I can choose to have enough self-respect to walk away when someone treats me poorly. That's my choice." He started walking toward the exit. The audience was still clapping. Some people were even whistling and cheering. Jennifer followed him, actually followed him off the stage. "You're making a huge mistake," she called after him. "Do you know how many people would love to be on my show?" Samuel stopped and turned around one last time. "Then invite them," he said simply. "Invite people who you'll actually treat with respect, because I'm done here." "You're being ridiculous," Jennifer shouted. Her composure was completely gone now. She wasn't the cool, collected host anymore. She was angry, embarrassed. "All I did was ask you some tough questions. If you can't handle that, maybe you are too old for this industry." That was the final straw. Samuel walked back toward her, and the look on his face made everyone go quiet. "Let me make something very clear," he said, his voice low but powerful. "I can handle tough questions. I've been handling them my entire career. What I won't handle is disrespect. What I won't handle is someone diminishing my accomplishments to make themselves feel superior. You want to have real conversations? Great. But don't confuse cruelty with honesty." Jennifer crossed her arms. "I wasn't being cruel. I was being real." "No," Samuel said. "You were being mean. There's a difference. And if you can't see that, then you've got a lot to learn about how to treat people." The studio was electric. Everyone was watching this unfold. The cameras were still rolling. The crew didn't know what to do. This had never happened before. "Fine," Jennifer said, throwing her hands up. "Leave then. Walk off. But don't expect to ever come back on this show." Samuel smiled. A real smile this time. "Trust me," he said. "That's not something I'm worried about." And with that, he walked out. Just left. Walked right out of the studio while the audience gave him a standing ovation. People were clapping so hard their hands must have hurt. They were cheering like he'd just given the performance of a lifetime. And in a way, he had. Jennifer stood there on her stage, alone, watching him leave. She tried to smile, tried to laugh it off. "Well," she said to the audience, "I guess he couldn't handle the heat." But nobody laughed. Nobody clapped. They just stared at her, because they'd all seen what really happened. They'd seen her push and push and push until a good man had finally had enough. She tried to continue the show, tried to move on to her next segment, but the energy was gone. The audience was cold. They'd lost respect for her in those few minutes, lost it completely. Meanwhile, Samuel walked out of that building with his head held high. He didn't rush, didn't storm out in anger. He just walked calmly, with dignity, the same way he'd conducted himself his entire career. Because that's who Samuel L. Jackson is. A professional, a legend, someone who knows his worth and won't let anyone make him feel small. Inside the studio, Jennifer kept trying to salvage the show. She brought out her next guest. She made jokes. She smiled. But it was hollow. Everyone could see it. The staff could see it. The audience could see it. She'd messed up badly. But back to Samuel. As he got into his car outside the studio, he wasn't angry. He wasn't upset. He was actually calm. Because he'd done the right thing. He'd stood up for himself. He'd shown that no matter how famous someone is, no matter what platform they have, they don't get to treat people badly. The thing is, this could have been a great interview. Samuel is an incredible storyteller. He's funny, he's insightful, he's got decades of amazing experiences to share. All Jennifer had to do was be respectful, ask good questions, listen to his answers. But instead, she decided to use her platform to tear him down, to make him feel small, and it backfired spectacularly. People always talk about treating others with respect, but sometimes we forget that respect isn't just about being polite. It's about recognizing someone's humanity, their accomplishments, their worth. Jennifer forgot that. She saw a guest, a person who'd agreed to come on her show and promote his work, and instead of honoring that, she used it as an opportunity to boost herself up by pushing him down. But Samuel didn't let her. He didn't yell, didn't curse, didn't lose his temper. He just calmly explained why what she was doing was wrong, and then he left. That's power. That's real strength. Not staying and fighting, not causing a scene, just knowing when enough is enough and having the courage to walk away. Think about how hard that must have been. He's on live television, cameras everywhere, audience watching, crew watching, and he has to make a choice in real time. Does he sit there and take it? Does he try to laugh it off? Or does he stand up for himself, knowing it's going to create a moment that everyone will talk about? He chose himself. He chose his dignity. He chose respect. And that's what made it so powerful. Jennifer, on the other hand, showed everyone who she really was in that moment. Not the polished television host, not the celebrity, but someone who thought she could say whatever she wanted because she was in the position of power. Someone who thought having a talk show meant she could treat her guests however she pleased. But that's not how it works. A talk show host has a responsibility. They're inviting people into their space. Those people are giving their time, sharing their stories, helping create content. The least a host can do is treat them with basic human decency. And age? Really? That's what Jennifer chose to attack? One of the most accomplished actors of all time? And she decided to make him feel bad about getting older? As if we don't all age. As if growing older somehow diminishes everything he's accomplished. It was shallow. It was mean. And it revealed so much about her character. The worst part was how she kept pushing, even when she could see he was getting uncomfortable. A good host reads the room. They notice when a guest is getting tense. They pivot. They change direction. They make the person feel comfortable again. But Jennifer did the opposite. She saw his discomfort and leaned into it. She saw an opportunity to create drama, and she took it, not caring how it would make him feel. That's not entertainment. That's cruelty. And the audience knew it. You could feel it in the room. The energy shifted. People weren't having fun anymore. They were witnessing something ugly, something that didn't sit right. When Samuel started taking off his microphone, you could see the panic in Jennifer's eyes, because she realized, too late, that she'd gone too far. She'd pushed a man who didn't need her show, didn't need her platform. He was Samuel L. Jackson. He could walk out and be just fine, better than fine. He'd be the hero of this story. And that's exactly what happened. The second he stood up, the power dynamic completely flipped. Suddenly, Jennifer wasn't in control anymore. She was scrambling, trying to get him to stay, trying to act like he was overreacting. But everyone saw through it. Sit down, Samuel. Like he was a child. Like he was beneath her. Like she had authority over him. That moment right there showed everything. She thought being the host meant being the boss, being in charge, having power over her guests. But that's not how respect works. That's not how relationships work. Samuel's response was perfect. He didn't argue, didn't explain himself, just calmly removed the microphone and prepared to leave. That action spoke louder than any words could have. Then Jennifer made it worse by following him, by trying to assert her authority. This is my show. Yes, it was her show, but he was her guest, and guests can leave, especially when they're being treated poorly. The audience siding with Samuel must have been devastating for her. In her own house, on her own show, with her own audience, and they were cheering for him, applauding his decision to walk away from her. That had to hurt, but it was deserved. Actions have consequences. Disrespect has consequences. When she yelled that he was making a huge mistake, you could hear the desperation, because she knew this was going to make her look bad. She knew people would take his side. She knew she'd messed up. But instead of apologizing, instead of trying to make it right, she doubled down, made it worse, blamed him for being too sensitive. That's what people do when they know they're wrong but don't want to admit it. They blame the other person for their reaction instead of taking responsibility for their action. You're too sensitive is just another way of saying, I don't want to be accountable for hurting you. But Samuel wasn't too sensitive. He was appropriately sensitive. He was a human being who deserved respect and wasn't getting it. Standing up for yourself isn't being sensitive, it's being strong. His final words to her were the perfect ending, explaining the difference between tough questions and disrespect, between honesty and cruelty. He gave her a lesson right there. A free lesson in how to be a better person, a better host, a better human being. Whether she learned from it or not, that's up to her. But the image of him walking out to a standing ovation while she stood there alone on her stage, that's going to last forever. That's the moment everyone will remember. Not what movie he was promoting, not what Jennifer's show was about that day. Just that moment, when a legend said enough is enough. When he chose himself over the spotlight, when he showed everyone watching that dignity matters more than airtime. Jennifer's attempt to continue the show afterward was painful to watch. How could she? How could she just move on like nothing happened? The audience was cold. They'd lost respect for her. And you can't get that back easily. Trust is built slowly and destroyed quickly. She destroyed it in about 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Samuel was already gone. Already. Moving on with his life. Because that's what you do when you know your worth. You don't stick around hoping things will get better. You don't wait for an apology that's probably not coming. You just leave. You protect your peace. You protect your dignity. This whole situation was a masterclass in self-respect. Samuel showed everyone watching, especially young people, that you don't have to tolerate disrespect just because someone has a platform. You don't have to smile and nod when someone is tearing you down. You can stand up, you can speak your truth, and you can walk away. Jennifer showed the opposite. She showed what happens when you let power go to your head, when you forget that the people on your show are human beings with feelings and careers and legacies, when you think entertainment means being mean. The contrast couldn't be clearer. One person left with dignity, the other was left with an empty stage and an audience that had turned against her. And somewhere in all of this is a lesson for everyone. Treat people well. It doesn't matter if you're the host or the guest, the boss or the employee, the famous one or the unknown one. Treat people with respect. Listen to them. Value them. Don't use your position to make others feel small, because eventually someone will stand up. Someone will say no. Someone will walk away, and you'll be left wondering where it all went wrong. Samuel L. Jackson walked off that show, and in doing so, he gave everyone permission to do the same, to value themselves, to demand respect, to know when enough is enough. That's the real story here. Not the drama, not the conflict, but the simple, powerful act of a man choosing himself. And Jennifer Hudson, she learned a hard lesson that day, or at least she should have. Because at the end of it all, Samuel walked away just fine. His career didn't suffer. His reputation was intact. If anything, people respected him more. But her, she had to face an audience that saw who she really was. And that's something you can't take back.